Have you ever done everything you were told to do, eaten the right foods, skipped the bad ones, stayed consistent for weeks, and still watched the scale refuse to move even 1 pound? What if the real problem is not your effort, not your willpower, and not your body, but a handful of invisible mistakes that are quietly working against you every single day without you even knowing? Before we go deeper, do me one quick favor right now. Hit that like button if you are tired of confusing weight loss advice, subscribe so you never miss something that actually helps, and share this video with one person in your life who keeps saying they have tried everything, because what they are about to hear might be the missing piece they have been searching for. Now let's be honest about something most people never talk about. The majority of people who struggle with weight loss are not struggling because they are lazy. They are not struggling because they have no self-control. They are struggling because they are following advice that sounds correct on the surface, looks responsible from the outside, and feels like the right thing to do, but underneath it is full of small errors that quietly pile up and block progress every single week. And the frustrating part is this: when those errors keep blocking progress, people do not think, maybe I am making a mistake. They think, maybe I am broken. They start believing their metabolism is the problem. Their age is the problem. Their hormones are the problem. Their genetics are the problem. And that thinking leads them straight into hopelessness, where they stop trying altogether. But the truth is far more hopeful than that, because if small mistakes are causing the damage, then fixing those small mistakes can reverse it. And that is exactly what this video is about. 10 specific mistakes that stop weight loss for millions of people, some of them so normal and so widely accepted that you may have never questioned them once. Pay close attention as we go through each one. Notice which ones feel familiar, because the one that makes you slightly uncomfortable is probably the one your progress depends on most. The first mistake is eating healthy foods in quantities that are anything but healthy. This one is surprisingly common among people who are genuinely trying. They move away from fast food and processed junk. They start eating avocados, nuts, seeds, granola, nut butters, Greek yogurt, trail mix, olive oil, smoothies, protein bars, and dark chocolate. All of these are real foods with real nutritional value. But here is the part that most people miss completely. The word healthy does not cancel out the word calorie. Weight loss, at its core, still requires your body to use more energy than you give it. And when you fill your day with foods that are dense in healthy fats and natural sugars, those calories add up faster than anyone expects. You could eat a breakfast smoothie made with banana, peanut butter, oats, honey, and almond milk, and believe you are doing great, when in reality you just had more calories than a full restaurant breakfast. The same trap exists with salads. People eat enormous salads and feel virtuous, but if that salad has half an avocado, a generous handful of nuts, croutons, dried cranberries, cheese, and a creamy dressing, the calorie total can easily exceed what a person trying to lose weight should have in one sitting. The fix here is not to stop eating these foods. The fix is to stop assuming that healthy automatically means appropriate for fat loss. Quality of food matters enormously for your health, energy, and long-term well-being, but quantity still matters for weight loss. Start measuring some of your common healthy foods for a week or two, not to become paranoid, but to become accurate. Most people are genuinely shocked by what they find, and that shock is often the beginning of real progress. The second mistake is drinking calories without giving them the same attention as food. Your body processes liquid calories differently from solid food. Drinks move through the digestive system faster, tend to create less fullness, and are far easier to consume in large amounts without feeling like you have eaten anything significant. And because of that, they often escape the mental accounting that people apply to meals. Think about a typical day for many people: a coffee with cream and syrup in the morning, a glass of orange juice with breakfast, an energy drink or a sweetened tea in the afternoon, a few glasses of wine or a couple of beers in the evening. Each one feels small. Each one feels like just a drink. But add the calories together, and you could easily be looking at 600, 800, even 1,000 extra calories per day, all from things that never felt like eating. Alcohol deserves extra attention here because it creates multiple problems at once. It adds empty calories, it weakens your decision-making so you eat more than planned, it disrupts your sleep so your hunger hormones get thrown off the next day, and it often comes with food, late nights, and less activity the following morning. One night of drinking does not just affect that night, it can ripple into the next 2 days. The solution is not total elimination unless that is what you choose. The solution is awareness. Start tracking your drinks with the same seriousness you track your meals. Consider where you can make easy swaps: water instead of juice, black coffee instead of a sugary latte, sparkling water instead of soda. Sometimes cutting liquid calories alone is enough to break a weight loss plateau that has lasted for months. The third mistake is consistently underestimating how much food you are actually consuming. This is probably the most widespread and least discussed reason people stall. Studies on this topic are eye-opening. Even trained nutritionists and health professionals, when asked to estimate their own intake without measuring, underreport by significant amounts. For everyday people, the gap can be enormous. It happens in small, invisible ways. A bite of food while cooking, a few chips grabbed from the bag while watching TV, the rest of food left on your child's plate, the extra splash of oil in the pan, the dressing poured generously rather than measured carefully, the bigger serving of pasta than the box says is one portion. None of these feel significant in the moment, none of them feel like eating, but they are, and they count. What makes this mistake so difficult to recognize is that people genuinely believe they are eating less. They are not lying, they are simply missing the reality. And because their perception of intake is lower than actual intake, they blame everything else when progress stops. Their thyroid, their age, their stress, everything except the true cause. The answer is not to track every crumb forever. The answer is to track carefully for a limited period, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, with real measuring, actual weighing of portions, and honest logging of every bite, including the small ones. This creates a clear picture of reality. And from reality, you can make real change. The fourth mistake is expecting exercise to compensate for eating too much. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for your body. It improves heart health, strengthens muscle, boosts mood, sharpens focus, reduces anxiety, and supports long-term weight maintenance. Nobody should stop exercising. But there is a thinking pattern around exercise that silently ruins fat loss for a lot of people. It goes something like this. You finish a hard workout and feel proud, deservedly so. Then that pride quietly turns into permission. You worked hard, you earned a reward. So you eat more, or more freely, than you would have otherwise. The workout burned 300 calories, the reward meal added 500. Without realizing it, you have moved backward. Research consistently shows that people overestimate how many calories exercise burns. A spinning class feels like it should burn a massive amount. So does an hour on the treadmill. The actual number is almost always lower than people guess. And fitness apps and machines make this worse by calculating overly generous burn estimates that encourage more eating. Exercise should absolutely be part of your lifestyle. But it should be there because it makes you healthier and stronger, not because you think it gives you a daily pass for extra food. Build your eating habits to support fat loss on their own. Then let exercise enhance and speed up what is already working. That combination is powerful. Treating exercise as a calorie eraser is not. The fifth mistake is not eating enough protein at each meal. If you changed only one thing about your eating, increasing protein would probably deliver more results than almost any other adjustment. Protein does things that carbohydrates and fats simply do not do at the same level. It keeps you full for longer, which means fewer cravings and less automatic reaching for snacks. It requires more energy to digest, which means your body burns more calories just processing it. And it protects your muscle mass during weight loss, which is critical because muscle is metabolically active tissue that keeps your calorie burn higher. When protein is low, hunger is high. And when hunger is high, staying in a calorie deficit feels like a constant battle against your own instincts. You start eating more than planned, not because you failed, but because your body is telling you it needs more. The willpower runs out, the diet falls apart, and the cycle restarts. A higher protein approach changes the experience of dieting. You feel less hungry between meals. Cravings for sweet and salty junk food reduce. Energy stabilizes. Choices feel easier. And weight loss becomes something you can maintain instead of something you have to force through gritted teeth. This does not require extreme amounts. It requires intentional amounts. Every meal should include a solid protein source. Eggs, meat, fish, poultry, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, tofu, tempeh, beans done right, or quality protein shakes when needed. When protein anchors each meal, everything else becomes simpler. Now here is a quick moment to stop and acknowledge that if this is making sense and you want more content that cuts through the noise and gets straight to what actually works, hit subscribe right now. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real information that helps real people. And if you know someone who has been spinning their wheels with diets for years, share this with them. That one share might genuinely change their entire relationship with food and their body. The sixth mistake is treating sleep like it has nothing to do with weight loss. Most people have never connected their sleep quality to their inability to lose fat, but this connection is powerful, well-researched, and deeply underestimated. When you do not sleep enough or sleep poorly, your hunger hormones shift in the wrong direction. The hormone that makes you feel hungry rises. The hormone that signals fullness drops. The result is that you wake up genuinely hungrier than you should be, and your brain pushes harder toward high-calorie, high-reward foods throughout the entire day. Beyond hunger, poor sleep damages decision-making. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-control and long-term thinking, works less effectively when sleep-deprived. So even if you know what you should eat, your ability to choose it under pressure gets weaker. You become more impulsive, more reactive, more likely to reach for comfort food when stress or tiredness hits. And there is one more layer to this. Sleep-deprived people tend to move less during the day. Not necessarily fewer workouts, but less natural movement, less fidgeting, fewer steps, more sitting. This drops overall calorie burn without anyone noticing, and it compounds the effects of the other mistakes. Improving sleep does not need to be complicated. Protect a consistent bedtime. Reduce blue light from screens at least an hour before bed. Keep your sleeping environment dark and slightly cool. Avoid caffeine too late in the day. Treat sleep as part of your fat loss strategy because it genuinely is. The seventh mistake is building a diet so strict that it is designed to fail. There is a version of motivation that actually sabotages you. It is the version that shows up after a period of frustration and promises extreme discipline, no sugar, no carbs, no eating out, no exceptions, no mercy. For a short time this works. You feel powerful, you feel in control. You feel like this is finally it. Then real life appears. Stress at work, a social event, a moment of weakness, an emotional day, one unplanned meal that was not part of the perfect plan. And instead of moving on, your brain flips into a failure spiral. I already ruined it. So one meal becomes a day becomes a weekend becomes a full reset. Next Monday becomes the new starting line. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens when the bar is set so impossibly high that one human moment collapses the entire structure. The problem was never the one bad meal. The problem was a plan that could not survive contact with normal human life. Sustainable fat loss requires flexibility. It needs to include real foods you enjoy in controlled portions. It needs to survive a birthday dinner, a stressful week, and a night when motivation is zero. The best plan is not the most perfect one. It is the one that keeps working even when things are not perfect. The eighth mistake is letting the weekend completely undo what the weekdays built. This pattern is more common than most people realize, and it explains why some people seem to eat well constantly but never actually lose weight. From Monday to Friday, they are disciplined. They pack lunches, cook at home, skip desserts, and stay active. They create a meaningful calorie deficit over 5 days of effort. Then Saturday and Sunday arrive, and the rules disappear. Brunch with mimosas, a big restaurant dinner, dessert, takeout, drinks with friends, grazing at home because there is no schedule, less movement, longer sleep, but lower quality. By Sunday night, the 5-day deficit has been mostly or completely erased by 2 days of freedom. This does not mean weekends should feel like punishment, but it does mean that weekends need a loose structure. Something as simple as eating a protein-rich meal before going out, choosing between drinks or dessert instead of both, keeping breakfast simple on Saturday and Sunday, and staying somewhat active can protect the progress made during the week. Your body does not separate weekdays from weekends. Every day is part of the same total. If you want the week to mean something, the weekend has to cooperate enough to let the results show. The ninth mistake is ignoring how much stress is driving your eating behavior. Stress is one of the most underappreciated drivers of weight gain and weight loss resistance. When you are chronically stressed, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol increases appetite, particularly for high-calorie comfort foods. It also encourages fat storage, especially around the midsection, and it makes everything else harder, from sleep to motivation to sticking with habits. But beyond the biology, stress affects behavior in ways that are obvious once you name them. You come home exhausted, and the idea of cooking a healthy meal feels impossible. You have a difficult conversation, and immediately your hand is reaching into the snack cabinet. You feel overwhelmed by everything, and tracking your food feels like one task too many. So you stop, and without the structure, eating goes off the rails. What makes this especially difficult is that food genuinely does provide temporary relief from stress. It soothes, it comforts, it triggers a brief chemical reward. That is not a moral failure. That is biology. But it becomes a problem when food is the only coping tool in your toolkit. Building other stress responses matters more than many people expect. A short walk, a few minutes of breathing, a conversation with someone you trust, journaling, a hot shower, tea instead of reaching for snacks. These are not dramatic fixes, but they interrupt the automatic pattern. And interrupting that pattern even some of the time is enough to make a real difference. The 10th mistake is expecting results too quickly and giving up before your efforts have time to pay off. This one might be the most heartbreaking mistake of all, because it means people quit something that was actually starting to work. Weight loss is not a straight line. The body does not respond to effort the way a machine responds to a button. It fluctuates, water retention rises and falls, hormones shift, digestion creates changes on the scale that have nothing to do with actual fat. A week of genuine effort can look flat or even slightly up on the scale due to factors that are completely unrelated to fat gain. When someone does not understand this, they panic. They see no movement after 10 days and conclude the whole approach is broken. They try something different, or they quit entirely. And what they never know is that sometimes progress was building quietly underneath the surface, and in another week or two, it would have shown up clearly. Real fat loss takes time, not because the body is working against you, but because meaningful, lasting change is a biological process that cannot be rushed beyond a certain point. Most people judge too early, demand too much too fast, and leave the game right before it was about to reward their patience. The answer is to measure progress with more than just the scale. Track how your clothes fit, notice your hunger patterns, pay attention to your energy, monitor your consistency, look at weekly and monthly trends, not daily numbers. Trust the process long enough for it to actually become a process. And now here is the most important thing to take from this entire video. All 10 of these mistakes have one thing in common. They are all fixable. None of them require you to be a different person. None of them require superhuman discipline or a perfect life. They require awareness and adjustment, one mistake at a time. You do not need to overhaul everything overnight. You do not need to start fresh on Monday. You do not need to find a harder plan or a stricter diet or a more powerful supplement. You need to identify which of these mistakes is the one that keeps quietly costing you the most, and start there. If your drinks are adding invisible calories, fix the drinks. If your weekends are undoing your weeks, build a simple weekend plan. If your protein is too low, raise it starting at your next meal. If your sleep is poor, start protecting it tonight. If your tracking is full of guesses, spend 2 weeks getting accurate. If your diet is too rigid to survive real life, loosen it enough to last. One honest change, applied consistently, does more than 10 perfect ideas that never get executed. Because here is what fat loss actually is when you strip away all the noise and the marketing and the hype. It is not a secret. It is not a formula that only some people deserve access to. It is a series of small behaviors, repeated with enough consistency and accuracy, over enough time to allow your body to do what it is naturally capable of doing. Most people never experience that because they keep cycling through the same mistakes without naming them. But you just named all 10, and that means the next time you feel stuck, you will not spiral into self-blame. You will ask a better question. Not why is my body doing this to me, but which of these mistakes am I still making? That question has an answer, and that answer leads to action, and action leads to the results you have been after for far too long. Drop a comment right now with the number of the mistake that felt most personal to you. Just a number. That one honest moment might be the beginning of the breakthrough you have been waiting for. And if this video helped you think differently about why fat loss feels so hard, hit like, subscribe for more clarity without confusion, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to suffer to make progress. You do not need to wait for the right moment. You just need to stop feeding the mistakes that have been quietly holding you back. Fix them, stay consistent long enough to let consistency work, and watch what your body is actually capable of when you finally stop working against it. That is not motivation. That is not hype. That is just the truth. And the truth is enough to change everything.